Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whenever or wherever you're watching or listening. This is the Awesemo NHL DFS Strategy Show, and I'm your host, Michael Clifford, aka Slim Cliffy. Joining me today to just take in this glorious day, talk about this glorious day for the next hour, is our single entry assassin, Mr. Joshua Harris. Josh, how you doing today, buddy?
Pretty good. Nice little early morning. A little tired, a little wired. I'm excited to break down some hockey.
Yeah, really excited to break down some hockey. It is a great day today. We have sports going on all day. I think it's the best esports day of the year for any of the esports fans. We have League of Legends World Finals, Counter-Strike semis, Valorant French Championships, just a great esports day. But we're here to talk about NHL. And before we get too far, I want to talk about how some people did last night, because apparently some people did very well last night. I did not. I was on the Fade Edmonton train, and the Fade Edmonton train, boy, that thing just crashed into the side of a mountain. So I did not do well. I see in our YouTube chat, Chris Warstel, $50 super chat, says, good morning, guys. Won cross-check 3-entry max and second place in the 75K kick save. Thank you, full Edmonton power play. Holtzen, Brad, Hamonic, and Saros. We were kind of on New Jersey. We would, obviously, I think we were I think you were a little bit more on Edmonton than I was, but we were both on New Jersey, and New Jersey definitely came through for him. So congrats to Chris. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's a huge night. Good for you. Yeah, Josh is going to cheers you. That's a bang energy drink from Josh. He's not slamming beers at 9 o'clock in the morning. I wouldn't blame him, but he's not doing that just yet. I also saw Jake, our boss Jake, had a pretty good night as well. And I hear you had a pretty good night, Josh. So why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, I was on the Fade Edmonton train until the live news on the show yesterday broke that is not going to be Igor in net. So I went back into the think tank. I ended up doing full Edmonton one. Puljujärvi was a quarter of the ownership of McDavid. He had 2 goals. And then I also combined that. I had Ehlers, who had a goal and an assist, and then I had Vancouver 2, Horvat, and Hoglander. Hoglander scored his first goal of the season. He had his shot bonus. So my defenseman did absolutely nothing, and I had Blackwood, who ended up with an overtime loss. But if he ended up winning, that could have been a good night. It still was 3x, so we take those and run, and hopefully we can have a repeat performance tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime you can make some good money, especially like the nights when your punts and your goalies don't come through, that always feels so bad, right? Like when you nail your stacks and then your 2,900 punt has 1.3 points or something like that. And, if you just pick the right guy, maybe it works out different. But that's DFS. We talk about those razor thin margins at the top. Josh had a good night. Good for him. Chris had a good night. Jake had a good night. Good nights. Probably not all around. Not everybody can win every night, but good nights in here. Let's have a good day today. We do have a monster slate on tap today. Just want to mention real quick that we are brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Yahoo is the sponsor of our show, and we have a really nice giveaway from Yahoo later on. So if you're new to Yahoo, want to get your feet wet in DFS, we do have a nice first-time user giveaway coming up from Yahoo. So stay tuned for that a little bit later, but we do have a huge 10-game slate today. I think going through this slate last night, I don't want to take too long because we do have a lot of games to get to. The thing that stood out to me initially was that no really monster home goal totals, right? Like I see one, Washington 3.4 at home. Everybody else at home today is at 3.0 or less. That tells me we're going to see some pretty wide open ownership here. Josh, what does a slate like this tell you?
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of 5.5, so Vegas is expecting some sludge fests today, but that's good for DFS though, because if it's a 10-game slate and there's like 1 6.5 or 7, there's going to be a ton of ownership there. Ownership should be spread out pretty evenly today. Obviously at 6 in the morning or wherever we are, and during the day the ownership's not up yet, so we can just take our best guess. But there, outside of Washington, it doesn't seem like there's going to be a very chalky spot tonight.
Yeah, and even Washington, I mean, we'll talk about that spot a little bit. could be chalky, might not even be necessarily a great spot, but like we will talk about that. We'll get back to that in a little bit. Before we get moving too much further, if you could give us a like and a subscribe, so you can keep up with all our DFS shows and giveaways. The subscription especially really helps us, and it'll keep you guys. It'll keep the video feed in your guys' YouTube feed, and also click that notification button if you wanted to get an alert when we go live, because we do have lots of shows going on all day. Today we have NFL and college and MMA and NBA shows going on the rest of the day. I'll get through those in a little bit, but we are the first show of the day, and there's a lot more coming up. So let's get to this first game. We have Detroit, 2.8 implied goal total going into Buffalo. The Sabres have a 2.9 implied goal total. I think the thing that jumps out for me initially from Detroit and Buffalo is that Dylan Larkin's still out. Pius Suter looks like he's going to be taking his spot on the top line with Lucas Raymond. I'm going to keep saying Mason Raymond. I swear.
Mason.
yeah. It's in the back of my head. Mason Raymond for the rest of the season. Lucas Raymond and Tyler Bertuzzi with Pius Suter on the top line. Now, I kind of like Suter. I think he's better suited for that top line center role than Robbie Fabry is. I think Fabry's better off as a winger. So that does give me a little bit of interest on Detroit. Buffalo not looking as good of late as they did through their first 3 or 4 games of the season, but still not looking very terribly. And it kind of looks like a decent matchup for both sides. I mean, let's face it. The Detroit Red Wings have a higher implied goal total today than the Boston Bruins do. So we can't just skip over them. What do you like about this game, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, you saw the Boston Bruins just roll through Detroit the other night, but the Sabres aren't Boston. So really, like, I wish Victor Olofsson was going to be back, because then I'd really like that Olofsson-Tage Thompson combo. You know, Skinner up there is okay, but I'm not super enthusiastic on a huge slate playing, Buffalo without their best player. I actually don't mind that top line for Detroit: Pius Suter, Lucas Raymond, Bertuzzi. Pius Suter is not Dylan Larkin, but he's better than Fabry, especially in that role. So, Buffalo's not a world beater defensively. They're probably going to end up, in the bottom half of the league when the season's over. So Dustin Tokarski is probably going to start as well. We don't know. I mean, that's what's in the lineup builder. Look for the morning skates, but like, even, Buffalo goaltending has not been great. I think you can use some of this Detroit top line today. There's no matchup that's going to scare you away. It's just, getting comfortable playing Detroit on the road without Larkin on a 10-game slate in a GPP, like actually clicking them in, maybe the hardest part of playing them. So, but, I like it. Their prices are pretty good. Bertuzzi was up into the mid-7s for a while there. He's down to 5,700. Probably his price came down because they had a Canadian road trip and he wasn't allowed to play. So, maybe that ends up being a good thing for DFS purposes when he's back in the States. Lucas Raymond under 5K, Pius Suter only 3,600. So pretty comfortable getting them in price-wise. Pretty decent matchup. Someone's got to score in this game. So Detroit won for me.
Yeah, I think I'm on the other side here with Buffalo one. I do like both top lines, and yeah, I'm with you. I like Pius Suter. I think he's a better two-way center than Fabry is, and that makes him better suited for that top line role. I just, like I said, Buffalo still hasn't looked terrible. That top line matchup, I think, isn't a great matchup. And, even that Bjork, Okposo, or Gergensons and all those guys have been good defensively this year as well. So what's drawing me to Buffalo, Skinner, Thompson, Asplund, top line, not super expensive, about 14K on DraftKings. But on top of that, Detroit's one of the most penalized teams in the NHL. I think they're like 6th or 7th by most penalties taken. Not that Buffalo, I'm not running out to play the Buffalo power play here today. But, if they're going to get 4 or 5 power plays, the prices has come down, right? Like Tage Thompson was like in the 6K range at one point, which, come on, man. Jeff Skinner's come down by like about $1,000. I don't mind that Buffalo top lines, and perfectly correlated on the power play, especially where they could get 4 or 5 opportunities here tonight. I don't mind them. So, 20 lineups, 150 lineups, absolutely get your Buffalo in there. If you're playing 1-3, probably not I don't think you ever have to play the Buffalo Sabres in a 1-3 lineups on a slate this big, but just somebody to keep just a line to keep in mind, I think. On the blue line, Moritz Seider obviously has been playing a lot of minutes lately, not monster. He does have good peripherals, not monster peripherals, but good peripherals. I kind of like Cedar. Anybody else sticking out under the blue line besides correlating?
Yeah, I like Philip Pronic, and I see a couple people in chat saying that Bertuzzi may not be able to play in Buffalo because of their restrictions. So I don't know anything about that. If that's the case, he may be out, but I guess there'll be news about that. But Philip Pronic, I like as a one-off 3,100. He's been playing a more defensive role, so shot blocking there. If you're using Buffalo 1, Colin Miller, Rasmus Dahlin, but punting wise, there's not really much for me there.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything about Tyler Bertuzzi. I assume he's still allowed to play. Like, I think they played the Rangers earlier. I don't know why. Maybe it's different counties in New York would have different rules.
Well,
I don't know.
I know in New York, at least in the boroughs with like the Kyrie Irving stuff, like he couldn't play home games, but like a visitor who's unvaccinated could play. So I think Bertuzzi can play. I'll check on that and tweet about it or something. But
yeah, I mean, we'll definitely find out, in an hour or two when lineups, morning skates come. We just don't know at this moment in time when we're doing this show. But we do have to move it along. Let's get to this next game. Boston 2.7 implied goal total going into Toronto. The Leafs have a 3.0 implied goal total. Now, I only see 2.7 implied goals for this game, but I do see two teams that can probably put up 5 goals on each other on any given night. I think there might be some stuff to like on both sides, but I think people might be reticent to actually play players out of this game because of how tough the matchups is on both sides. So what do you think about this game, Josh?
Yeah, this is a tough matchup for Toronto. Going to that Bergeron line is not ideal. If this was a shorter slate, I'd be like, yeah, let's play Matthews. But 8,900 going into Bergeron. I know they're at home and he's on the top power play, but like their power plays look good, but they're just not scoring. If they were, Boston was taking some penalties and their power play was clicking, I'd say, yeah, well, let's load in some Matthews here. You probably get him lower owned than you normally would on any type of slate. But, this is a tough matchup. I think I would lean on the top lines here to Boston 1 here a little bit. Yeah, like Matthews has great offensive numbers and pretty solid defensive numbers, but if I had to pick a top line, I think it would be Boston 1. Not that I'm like itching to play either of these top lines tonight. It's just if I had to pick one to be Boston 1, I'm probably going to be well under the field if I was MMEing on both these top lines. Where I'm looking is Boston 2 here. Hall, Coyle, Smith. Smith's price keeps going down. They are 12,000 the full stack. They're going to get to Tavares, Kerfoot, Marner matchup. That line has actually been pretty good. I mean, like when they got put together, Marner's numbers without Matthews, were atrocious. He's kind of rebounded a little bit, but like 7,100 for Mitch Marner for like in this matchup is not something I want to do. Tavares 6,600. Like the price on Boston 2 here is what's driving me to this play here. You get Coyle and Smith power play 2. You get Hall power play 1. So really, like out of this game, like Boston 2 for me. If you want to mix in some Toronto top 6 in your MME builds, I think that's okay. But for me, I'm going to be light on Toronto.
Yeah, like you mentioned, the Toronto top line generating a ton of offense. I do kind of like, I'm on the opposite side of you. I do kind of like that Toronto second line. I get you. Trust me, I get what you're saying with 7,100 Marner, and he's not a guy I would want off. Like I was actually looking at his shot rate. Like his shot rate's one of the lowest on the team for amongst the forwards. So like if you're playing Marner, you're absolutely playing him in a stack. You're not playing him by himself. But the thing is that Boston too plays at a high event. So like they are good offensively, and I wouldn't mind playing them, but they are giving up some shots at the other end of the ice. And that's kind of where I like Toronto too coming in. Um, I'm not going to be heavy on them. I might, 20 lineups tonight. I might have them in two out of 20 or something like that. You won't have to play a lot of them because I don't think there's going to be super heavy ownership on Toronto too here tonight. But they do have reasonably good numbers in a decent sample. 57% shot share, 69% expected goal share in 50 minutes. So do like Toronto too, but I think we're kind of on the same coin here. It's the second lines that we're looking towards in this game as opposed to the top lines. On the blue line, we don't normally go for Toronto defensemen, and I don't know why tonight would be any different. Brandon Carlo is a guy I'm writing up for the Power Plays article later today, 2,500. I think he's a real threat for the shot bonus if Toronto can get some shots off tonight. Anybody else you like in this game?
Yeah, I mean, Carlo gets his minutes at 2,500. You always got to consider those guys. That's really about it outside of correlating. Like Muzzin's back over 4K, so it's really I'm looking elsewhere for defensemen today.
Yeah, like if you have a Toronto lineup and you want just like straight punt with like a Brody or a Sandin or something like that, I'm not going to say that's stupid because those guys can get there fairly easily, but I'm not targeting any Toronto defensemen today. Let's just say that. Get access to all the great Awesemo Plus tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there with an Awesemo Plus weekly pass for $29.95. That includes full access to all the premium content and tools on Awesemo.com, including player projections, ownership projections, our Discord, lineup builder, and a whole lot more. If you're a new user of Awesemo Plus Platinum, then you can take advantage of the promo code we have for this show, which is NHL Strategy Show, all caps, all one word. That's NHL Strategy Show for 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. You can find the link to activate this coupon in the description of the video below. And of course, if you're only looking to play NHL DFS, then you can sign up for one of our Awesemo Plus NHL packages for as low as $3.95 a week. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Remember, if you want to join, that's NHL Strategy Show, all caps, all one word, to get 25% off your first week of Awesemo Plus Platinum. And if you want to check out what we have on the site before investing any of your hard-earned dollars with us, we do have some free premium content and data up on the site, as we do on most days. Today, we have NFL ownership projections. We have NBA player projections. We have our NHL top stacks. And we have our MMA pro plays. So NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, whatever you're playing today, we have you covered. So check out some of the stuff we have for free. I think you'll like what we have to offer, and you'll want to subscribe with us for long after that. All right. Next game, Vegas, 2.8 implied goal total going into Montreal. The Montreal Canadiens also have a 2.8 implied goal total. Jack Eichel, not expected to suit up for the Golden Knights in this one. But they did make that big trade. I think it's worth mentioning that trade, right? Because missing Stone, missing Pacioretty, missing Carlson, missing White Cloud, you're missing all those guys. Not that Peyton Krebs is great, but he was probably one of their four best wingers with all those injuries, and they traded him. So it leaves them even weaker until Eichel gets back. I think that's just the one thing I wanted to mention here. I'm going to write up Brendan Gallagher for my Power Plays article, so I think he's a guy to keep in mind and his line. But I want to get your thoughts on this game, Josh.
Yeah, when I initially saw this game, despite the total, I think there's going to be ownership on Montreal tonight, just because people have been stacking against Vegas with all those injuries, and they're not super expensive, right? The top line is, like 14.8. The second line is 12.9. So this is going to be a pretty good filler spot, I think, for people trying to jam in some expensive lines. And I think the most popular line is going to be Tivoli, Suzuki, Gallagher. And, that's fine. Like, as long as ownership's in check, like, it's a 10-game slate. So I'd say, like, I'd be comfortable playing them up to like 9 to 11%. If it's like we get our first ownership run and they're like 17, 18%, I'd probably have some pause and consider going down to Dvorak, Hoffman, Anderson. I'm going to consider Dvorak, Hoffman, Anderson anyway. There isn't, a defensive line on the Vegas Golden Knights right now that, is going to scare me off playing these guys. I don't know how heavy I'm going to be on Montreal. It depends on my builds. I obviously haven't started, messing around with building lineups yet, but if I can get a Suzuki to Foley Gallagher lineup in comfortably, that's not going to be super chalky. I'm going to do it. If not, I'll dip down to the second line. On the Vegas side, I don't know if I'm going to full stack anything. Jake Allen's looked pretty good recently. Goalies are streaky with that, that kind of stuff. But Montreal is still not a great defensive team. So I think, you can take a couple two-mans here. I actually don't mind Stevenson Dadonov two-man for some power play. So, if you want to one off of Marcia, so that's fine. But for me on the Vegas side, where I'm going to concentrate is Stevenson Dadonov.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned them because we don't have a big sample. Like, Vegas has been moving their lines around. Players have been injured and all that. But 50 minutes together, 54% shot share, generating 70 shot attempts per 60 minutes. Like Stevenson, he's looked like a pretty good center wherever he's played in that lineup since coming over from Washington. It hasn't been just with Stone and Pacioretty. So I do like that Stevenson to Donoff two-man coming in fairly cheap. They're not going to see that Suzuki. I don't think they're going to see much of that Suzuki to Foley line. So, you're hopefully going to see a little bit more of that second line from Montreal. And, that defense is just still so beat up. Like, maybe they can put out a decent top pair of like Petrie and Kulak. But once you get past that, man, they're just hurting. So I do like that Stevenson Dadonov two-man from Vegas. I'm going to be writing up Montreal 1 for the Power Plays article. It's just, their numbers have looked good together. Suzuki and Toffoli were good together last year. I do think they're kind of starting to figure it out. So I do like Montreal 1, the Suzuki line. I do like Stevenson Dadonov two-man in this game as well. One thing staying with the Montreal side, Josh Anderson, man, like his price isn't coming up and he's been doing fairly well this year. Like, he's leading Montreal in shot rate this year, if I'm not mistaken. It's not something that's gone down, through the first 10 games. Maybe it will eventually, but he's also leading them in 5-on-5 ice time per game. Like, they're using Josh Anderson quite a bit. So I like Josh Anderson as a one-off a fair bit here tonight. Like, I imagine they're going to be popular, but 3,900 one-off, those are the guys I look for. So Stevenson, Dadonov, Montreal top line, maybe some one-off Anderson. That's what I'm looking for some forwards here. On the blue line, I think I was going to say Thay Theodore, so it's Shea Theodore. At 6K makes some sense to me. I know you're a big A-Mart stan, so I'll let the Alec Martinez talking to you.
Yeah, I'm a big A-Mart stan. Like, it took me a while to get there after he scored the Stanley Cup clinching goal against the Rangers in 2014, but 5,200 for what he does, sign me up. On the Montreal side, if you're playing Montreal 1, I think Petrie's price is pretty fair. I mean, his offensive numbers kind of like, looked like he jumped out of an airplane this season compared to last season. I'm not sure what's happening there. I guess, it's still early in the season. It's a pretty small sample. So 4,600, fair price. Kulak, if you need a min price punt, I think you could do worse than him.
Yeah, don't mind that. I was thinking about the goalies in this game, but I don't, 7,800 Leonard, 7,600 Allen, like those just seem like correlate if you're playing either side, but I'm not chasing either goalie.
Yeah, if Leonard was cheaper because he's on the road, I was hoping to get him around 7,200, 7,800. I'm probably going to be out. Jake Allen interests me a bit more because he's home at 7,600, but I think I'm going to stick to correlating as well.
Yep, agree with that. All right, let's move it along. Minnesota, 2.8 implied goal total going into Pittsburgh. The Penguins have a 2.9 implied goal total. Now, obviously, the Penguins still going through their injuries. They thought they were getting Sidney Crosby back, and then Sidney Crosby got COVID, so he's out. Obviously, they're still without Malkin and Brian Rust, so that's half their top six. Still out of the lineup, but they did, and, Brian Dumoulin gone, Marcus Pettersson gone. That's half of their top four defensemen gone. That's half of the top of their lineup still out of but they're still playing well, which is the craziest part out of all of this. Minnesota, I kind of like, they broke up the Kaprizov and Zuccarello and Eriksson line after Zuccarello got hurt. But I kind of like Foligno on that top line. He's looked well with Fiala. I think there's some stuff on both sides. Josh, what do you like here?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, super excited about the Pittsburgh Penguins, baby. Yeah.
Woo! I like Pittsburgh top line here. They're going to avoid Eriksson, Foligno. Going to get Freddie Gaudreau, who like Freddie Gaudreau, like name value, it's like not there, but like he's actually pretty good. Like I would suggest you watch some Freddie Gaudreau highlights. No, I don't know if he has a highlight tape on YouTube, but
it's just a lot of real good back checking.
Yeah. If you like dudes slamming into other dudes, watch some Freddie Gaudreau on YouTube. No, but Carter top line, Pittsburgh top line. I like, Carter Gensel, power play 1. They're not super expensive. Danton Heinen, 3,500. I like him up there. I'm not super. I don't think I'm gonna be like, yeah, let's go play Pittsburgh with all these injuries. But like, if you're making, over 10 lineups to 20 to 150, the more lineups I'm making tonight, the more likely I'm going to have some Pittsburgh in my mix. Both the first and the second line. I don't know if they're going to be a primary focus for me tonight, but there is some stuff to like there. And I honestly, I do like that Minnesota second line: Freddie Gaudreau, Kirill Kaprizov, Ryan Hartman. Freddie Gaudreau power play 1, 3,800 is fine. It helps fit in the 7,600 Kaprizov if you want to spend up for that. If you want to use that top line, that's fine. Like Teddy Bluger, that line with, Zach Aston Reese, very, very good two-way winger. They're getting close to being one of those lines where it's like, I don't know if I want to go into that, but like, they're not there yet. And I think you can have some Minnesota 1 in your mix. They're not going to be a primary focus. I think for this game, for me, I'm going to look to Minnesota 2, and I do like Pittsburgh top 6.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned Minnesota 2, because that's where I'm leaning in this game as well. Because I think the Bluger line is getting to the point where I don't want to play top lines.
Yeah,
like going into Pittsburgh, like it is getting scary facing that line. I got to assume Eriksson, Ek, and Fiala are going to see that matchup, right? And that's going to leave Freddie Gaudreau and Kaprizov and company against Pittsburgh's top line. And like, for as good as Carter has been, for some reason, he just hasn't mixed well with Jake Gensel, right? Yeah. Like whether it's been earlier this season, I think they played a little bit last year, or recently, like they just haven't played well together. Sub 50% shot share, sub 50% expected goal share, if I'm not mistaken. So like you're right, Freddie Gaudreau, I think is a good player to have Kaprizov with, both playing the power play together. I really do like that line from Minnesota. I think you can leave Hartman off, but I also think it's perfectly fine to leave Hartman off and just go with that three man. Or if you want to go, like Gaudreau and Kaprizov, and then add in, Jared Spurgeon for some additional power play exposure. I think that's where I'm leaning on the Minnesota side. On the Pittsburgh side, I think it's a case where I don't really like the top line, as I mentioned. I'm probably going to go to the second line. As you mentioned earlier, Evan Rodriguez had been playing fairly well this year. That second line has looked decent. Like Erod and Kasperi Kapanen have played well together. I think it's a tough matchup going into that Minnesota second line. But I think that kind of goes both ways. I think it's kind of a little bit of a tough matchup for both sides. So, or second line or even top line, whatever they get, or even third line. Like, let's face it, like there's not really an easy matchup from Minnesota anywhere in the top line. Their entire top 9 is good defensively. So, like, I'm not probably going to be rushing out to play Pittsburgh tonight. It's going to be more Minnesota 2 for me. On the blue line, it's really interesting what to do here, because Chris Letang is back, but we're not big Chris Letang fans here. Matt Dumba has really good peripheral numbers so far this year, but Jared Spurgeon is the guy running the top power play unit. How are you handling these defensemen, Josh?
Yeah, I never want off Letang. I keep Letang only in power play stacks or a stack in Pittsburgh. Mike Matheson is someone I'd want off at 3,400. Minnesota side, I like Dumba, but 6,200 is a little too much for me. I'd rather save the 1,300 and get the power play correlation with Spurgeon.
Yep. All right. Good enough. Let's talk about Yahoo Fantasy for a second. We have partnered with Yahoo Fantasy this NHL season and bring you some great offers. Check out our exclusive limited time offer, which gets you 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum. To qualify, you need to be new to Yahoo, sign up for an account via the link below, deposit and play. That's it. Yahoo will send us your name after you play in your first paid contest, and we will reach out via email with your coupon. If you need immediate access, email support@awesemo.com and we'll get you set up. You can also claim a free $10 below, which can be used to enter any Yahoo contest. Make sure to use our DFS tools and projections designed specifically for Yahoo to give yourself the best shot at winning big. If you want to dip your toes into DFS and you don't want to spend a ton of money to do it, and you don't want to play against some sharks, you want to sharpen your process, you want to get used to hockey, whatever it is, cannot recommend enough playing over on Yahoo. It's a little bit smaller prize pools, which is fine, considering you should probably play a little bit of softer competition, and it'll just help you sharpen your skills for when you want to move on to bigger prize pools. All right. Next game, Philly, 2.7 implied goal total going into Washington. The Caps have a 3.4 implied goal total. I think the big news for the Caps here is Anthony Mantha is out. He had shoulder surgery. Mantha and Vrana traded for each other, and then both of them going to miss significant time for shoulder surgeries. Hockey's so weird, man. Washington has the highest implied goal total, I think, on the entire slate, certainly at home today. That tells us they're probably going to carry some significant ownership. Tells me Ovechkin's probably going to carry some significant ownership here tonight. But Philly not really slouches in the scoring department themselves. So I think, 2.7 total, maybe they get a little bit overlooked. What do you like here, Josh?
Yeah, I don't know what they're outside of the top line. I don't know what their lines are going to look like, but I would imagine whoever Lars Eller is with going to get the Couturier matchup. So at least, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov are going to avoid them. I would assume. If you think differently, okay, you're agreeing. So, hopefully the Kuznetsov, Ovechkins of the world are going to get the Broussards of the world. And if that's the case, Washington one's definitely in play for me. They're probably going to be very chalky. So, you're going to have to make a decision on them. In GPPs, I'm a one lineup guy. I'm probably going to fade them just because I always fade them. But you're going to have to make a decision. If they're coming in, 20% on a 10 game, what are you going to do? You can get a little bit different here. You can, leave off Wilson, add in a Connor Sheary, leave off Wilson, add in Carlson, leave on Wilson, add Carlson. Like there's ways to get different on the power play with power play stacks. But, in 20 to 150, I think this is one of those spots, like if they're going to come in chalky, that you need to make a choice whether to be well over the field or well under the field. Being at the field with a 25% Alex Ovechkin doesn't really help you at all. So well over, well under, if you're MMEing one lineup, you're going to have to make a decision whether to fade the chalk or eat the chalk. And for me, I'm going to fade the chalk. On the Flyer side, they're going to get the Lars Eller matchup, but that top line's fully correlated on the power play. Washington hasn't been terrible defensively this year, but it doesn't matter to me. That line isn't super expensive right now. Fully correlated on the power play. I want a piece of that. If you want to dip down to that second line, I guess that's okay. But like we mentioned yesterday or the last time they played, Kuznetsov Ovechkin has not looked awful this season. So I probably stick to Flyers one here. And on the Washington side, it's going to be Washington one with some Washington power play.
Yeah, I really do like Washington one, but I share your concern with the ownership. 3.4 total at home, by far the highest total for any home team. They're going to carry a lot of ownership. So maybe you do have to get unique a little bit with your stacks. What I wonder is what happens to that second power play unit now that Mantha is out. Does Connor McMichael take some power play time? Because if I can get away with because Alex Ovechkin and John Carlson are probably going to play the entire power play. So you could do something like Ovechkin, Carlson, McMichael, if McMichael was going to jump onto the second power play unit. You know what I mean? And then you're looking at, top of my head, maybe like a 18K stack, and then it's something a lot more reasonable and definitely a trio that very few people will have. So it's something to keep in mind. I'm going to be looking for their morning skates to see if we can get any power play update, because who takes Mantha's role could be fairly important here. But I do like Washington one a lot. I will say I do like the Philly third line here quite a bit. I think they do see some third and fourth line matchups. I know Nick Dowd technically isn't a great matchup, but I think they see some third line, especially matchups from Washington. And that third line for Philadelphia has been solid enough this year. If they've been weak defensively, they've still been very, very solid offensively. So Lindblom, Lawton, and Van Riemsdyk, some two-mans out of that. I don't mind for Philly, but Washington one is definitely my focus in this game. On the blue line, Rasmus Ristolainen is a guy that stands out because he's getting second power play minutes. And he's a guy that will want to block any shot heading his way. So Risto stands out. Besides correlating, anything stand out to you, Josh?
Yeah, Ristolainen's price keeps dipping too. He's down to 3,300. He was like 5,800 not even a week ago. So yeah, Ristolainen and Sanheim are fine. Caps defenseman I don't really use too much. I mean, obviously Carlson if you're correlating, but other than that, I'm going to look elsewhere.
All right. Let's look to our next game then. Colorado, 3.2 implied goal total. Going into Columbus, the Jackets have a 2.5 implied goal total. Lots of news for Colorado here. Mikko Rantanen back on the top line with Landeskog and McKinnon. Andre Burakovsky back. He looks to be lining up on the second line with Nazem Kadri. And Devin Taves back. Hasn't played yet this year, but looks like he's going to be back. Kale McCarr still out, but Taves, Girard, and Byram all in the lineup. That defense really starting to take shape. Colorado, 3.2 implied goal total, probably going to get some ownership here tonight. But, Columbus kind of struggling. No, they're going through their own injuries right now. Patrick Laine out 4 to 6 weeks as well. Two rookies on the quote-unquote top line for Columbus with Yegor Chinnikov and Colt Sillinger playing with Jakub Voracek. Might be some stuff to like all over the place for Colorado here, Josh.
Is it Corpusalo Death Train? All aboard! Choo choo! No,
oh, God.
We are on Colorado. Well, I'm on Colorado. Listen, like they're going to be very chalky as well. Colorado won. I'd rather play Colorado 1 than Washington 1 tonight. It's just a personal preference thing. But again, they're going to be super chalky. I think you got to be aware of what you're doing. I do really like that Colorado second line as well. Like I know Logan O'Connor is just kind of there, but like Kadri Burakovsky together, they're going to be way lower owned than Colorado 1 in this matchup. It's a high total for them. If you want to get away from the chalk, you just start going down the lineup. And Kadri Burakovsky, 2-man, is 9,200 for the two of them. They're going to see nothing special on the Columbus side who have been struggling. So I think you can go there. Obviously, I love Colorado 1, but Colorado 2 is a way to get a little bit different here tonight. I'm glad I don't have to consider playing JT Confer. But if you do want to get a little bit different with Colorado 1, you can add him in because he's still on the top power play.
Before the show, Josh is telling me about how excited he was that he wouldn't have to play JT Compher tonight. And then here we are. Well, if you want to, you can throw some JT Compher. Oh, man.
I'm gonna get off the show and immediately just call my therapist.
Yeah, I do like Colorado 1 a lot here tonight. Nazem Kadri is going to be in my write-up for the Power Plays article because I think, that Jenner line is going to see a lot of Colorado 1. And then, after Jenner and company are off the ice, there's just nothing that can stop Colorado. And Burakovsky and Kadri, usually have some good offensive numbers together. So Kadri and Burakovsky, really like them as a 2-man, especially, I don't know how much power play time they're going to get now that Rantanen's back. But they do get some secondary power play minutes. Colorado's power play is one thing I want to talk about. They're 4th by power play opportunities per game. Now, Columbus doesn't take a lot of penalties mid-pack. this year, bottom of the league last year. Something to keep in mind that the second power play units become more viable the more power plays a team has. So if you think Colorado can get 4 or 5 power plays here tonight, that second power play unit, not a bad deal. I'm out on Columbus. There's just nothing I want. We always say if you want to one-off Bjorkstrand, that's fine. He's one of our favorite one-offs, but nothing from Columbus for me. On the blue line, I'm really interested to see that Colorado ownership because you have Devin Taves coming back at 4,500 in no man's land. Bowen Byram is cheaper than him running the top power play unit. Then you have Sam Girard all the way down at 2,900. Should be some interesting ownership here. I like Gavrikov again as a block bonus threat. What do you like for defenseman, Josh?
Yeah, I'm interested to see. Byram's going to be a chalk fest tonight because of the game he had. But I'm kind of interested in Taves. I wish it wasn't his first game back, but 4,500. I'd rather, if you're going to use Colorado too, Taves and Girard are definitely in play for me. Taves, if he's slotting in with Girard in the top pair, I would assume he's going to see at least 20 minutes. So I like that. Bowen Byram, if you're doing Colorado one stacks. But I think Girard is viable as well. Just don't play Jack Johnson.
Yeah, just don't play Jack Johnson is generally good advice when you're playing DFS. Odd Shopper is changing the way you approach sports betting. Shopping to find the best line available is always important, but Odd Shopper allows you to find your best bet in 30 seconds or less. Through its powerful filtering mechanism, Odd Shopper quickly delivers bets that you want to make right at your fingertips. Click the link in the description of this video and head on over to Odd Shopper and check out its innovative e-commerce inspired platform right now. There are hundreds of bets available to make from, all updated in real time. And even better, Odd Shopper now has expected win percentage and return on investment included for our NFL and NBA player props, which are derived straight from Awesemo's DFS projections. So you can find the best edges betting player props when using these Awesemo DFS projections. It's 100% free with no sign up required. There's no reason not to at least give it a look. So check it out and start making better bets today. That's Odd Shopper over at Awesemo. All right, let's get to this next game. New York Islanders 2.8 implied goal total going into Winnipeg. The Jets also have a 2.8 implied goal total. Winnipeg played last night, won 5-1, I think it was. Looked pretty good actually. I'm going to say Winnipeg, for the first time in a while, it looks like they have 3 lines that can actually play. What you think of Blake Wheeler aside, Mark Scheifele still constitutes a line. Islanders, though, look pretty good coming out of their little break. What do you think about this game, Josh?
Yeah. Back-to-back for the Jets. Hellebuck probably still out. So, Comrie going back-to-back, or they're going to have their third goalie going. I'm not really sure. That's news that you need to, stay tuned with. I like Islanders' second line again. We missed on that. Nelson had 4 games. Now their ownership's probably going to come up, which is a little tier coming down, but it's okay. You still can go back to them. Beauvillier, Palmieri, top power play here. Brock Nelson, second power play. That top line, it's just the price is still a little bit too high. Josh Bailey on the right wing, doesn't really do too much for me. If you want to, do a power play stack, I think that's fine. But for me, I'm going to concentrate on Islanders' second line here and the third line. I don't mind, JG Pajot, Wallstrom, 2-man. Bless you, dogs. They're all sneezing at the same time. That's really weird.
Wait, so does that mean they're on Islanders too? Is that what that means? Dog sneezing, got to be Islanders too, right?
Dobby, the free elf, was sneezing. So, yeah.
Yeah, there we are. Islanders too.
Yeah. And on the Winnipeg side, I don't know. This is kind of a tough matchup. Islanders haven't been great defensively so far this season, but back-to-back, 10-game slate. I don't know. Maybe have some Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kyle Connor, but it's just, they're expensive. That second line is probably the line I'd full stack, but on a 10-gamer, I'm probably going to be pretty light on the Jets tonight.
So I agree with you. I like the Islanders here tonight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Lee and Barzal, and this is why. Is yesterday in the Winnipeg game, Winnipeg was still sending out Scheifele and Wheeler against the top line, against, Kane and Kubalik. So that tells me that that Scheifele and Wheeler are going to see Lee and Beauvillier in this game. And that's the matchup I want going into Winnipeg. And with, we're assuming right now Connor Hellebuck is probably still going to be out. He missed one game because of the birth of his son, missed the next game because he was sick. So I'm assuming he hasn't gotten better in the last 24 hours and will still be out. So it'll be back-to-back Eric Comrie or the third string AHL goalie. So yeah, I do like, they're super expensive, but I like Lee and Barzal as a two-man. Throw them in with Dobson. Now we're cooking. I do like a little bit of Islanders one. Don't need a lot of them to get different here tonight. All right, moving along to our very next game. New York Rangers, 2.6 implied goal total going into Calgary. The Flames have a 3.0 implied goal total. Rangers played last night. Looked to be in very firm control against Edmonton. And then, Edmonton has Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. And McDavid scored one of the greatest goals I've honestly ever seen in the NHL. Just unbelievable stuff.
Like me and you were on the ice for the Rangers.
Yeah. Like just skating through four players from a complete standstill. Just bonkers stuff. What do you think about this game, Josh? I know you're the resident Rangers fan, so I'll let you take this one away.
Oh, man. Mika Zibanejad looked good last night. It's Igor night, my friends. We missed it last night. It is here. I like Igor and net, but man, the Rangers looked leaky yesterday in that third period. Now they're back-to-back on the road. That Alberta back-to-back is always pretty miserable. That top line for the Flames, their prices kind of haven't moved at all, and they've been pretty good. So fully correlated on the power play. I don't like really stacking against Igor, but, it's a 10-gamer. And if you're making 150, you definitely have to have Calgary one in the mix. I don't think they're going to be super chalky, but that's something that I'm going to look to do. Rangers side, these prices on the Rangers are just taking me out on them. I'm probably going to be pretty light on the Rangers tonight. Maybe I'll have a little bit of Mika and Kreider or, Strome and Panarin, but the prices are just too much. I actually don't mind dipping to the third line if you need, a cheap two-man. Phil Hedl has looked pretty good. You can get him in with Sammy Blais for some power play too for 5,700. You could do worse for 5,700, but really I'm probably going to be very light on the Rangers outside of Igor, and I like Flames one.
Yeah, I agree pretty much with everything you said. One thing I'll probably have Mika Zibanejad in my power plays article right up today for this reason is that Calgary, I think their weakest line is that Backlund, Pitlick, Coleman line, and that's the line Zibanejad's probably going to see a lot of here tonight. So I think, there's going to be no ownership on the Rangers. They're going to be very low. They're going to be low single digits. I think it makes a lot of sense to get some, if you're playing 150, if you're playing 20 max or something like that, it makes a lot of sense to get some Zibanejad, Kreider, maybe even throw in Goodrow if you want to lower the average price per player. But I think Zibanejad, Kreider, especially where you get that power play exposure.
I was just going to say, like, Zibanejad is very streaky, and when he starts scoring goals, they come in bunches. So
yeah, and I think it's just a low owned spot in what is a better matchup than I think people might realize, just because they're going against that Coleman line that hasn't been super great this year. But yeah, otherwise I agree with you. Calgary one is my favorite line out of this game. But Igor is my favorite play. He's my favorite play on the entire slate. Like, Calgary's generating a lot of shots, and a lot of shots against a great goalie at a cheap price on the road is exactly what we're looking for in DFS. All right. Before we get out of here, we only have 5 minutes left and a couple of games to get through. I see over 50 people watching. I see only 20 thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up if you could. Click that subscribe button. I'm sure you guys will appreciate all the shows that we have coming up, and click that notification to get notified when those shows come up. And we do have a lot of shows coming up. We have NBA Strategy with Emac and Gundacker coming up after us. They're going to be followed by the College Live Before Lock. They're going to be followed by the NFL show at 1 Eastern with Greg and Neil, followed by another NFL show presented by Prize Picks. And then later today, we have MMA and all our NBA stuff, deeper dive and live before lock. So we are going to be around, it looks like, for the next 11 hours or 10 hours doing DFS content. So stay tuned to Awesemo. Lots of stuff coming up. Doesn't matter the sport that you're playing. All right, 2 games left. Let's get to the first one of them. Seattle, 3.2 implied goal total. They're going into Arizona. The Yotes have a 2.5 implied goal total. We talked about Seattle quite a bit the last time they were out, how they might be turning their season around a little bit. I'm absolutely going to be having that Schwartz, Wenberg, Donskoy line in my mix today and in my Power Plays article. They're my favorite line out of this game. What do you like, Josh?
Is Schwartzberg your dentist?
Schwartzberg, Schwartzberg and Feinstein are my lawyers.
Yeah. Can we Josh stack the Kraken tonight? Like on a 10 gamer, that's probably not the best strategy, but like if this was a short slate, baby, I'd be considering Josh stacking. But Jaden Schwartz, Wenberg, Donskoy, love him. Yanni Gord, Kalle Jarnkrok, 2-man, love it. Even that third line, Donato, Geeky, Eberle, love it. Yotes back to back. They're a team. So
I made the mistake of betting on them yesterday. Oh, look at that price.
Well, no, but like the Ducks shouldn't be minus 190 against anyone in the NHL, but holy cow, did the Yotes look awful yesterday. So yeah, I love Seattle 1, Seattle 3, the 2-man at Gord Jarnkrok. Seattle 1, my favorite line. But there is just a lot to like up and down. On the Coyote side, not much there for me. If you want a 2-man, Kessel Yaskin, if you're making 150, you can have a little bit. Other than that, like maybe I'll stick to Chikrin on the blue line, or our boy Dyson Mayo keeps getting the bonus. But other than that, I'm pretty much out on the Coyotes.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Kessel Yaskin. Like I said it yesterday, they are the only 2 shooting on the team, and that remains true. At least they're a break-even possession line that is actually shooting. That's more than basically every other Arizona line could say. But yeah, I'm on Seattle 1. I love the Schwartz, Wenberg, Donskoy line. Still cheap. I imagine they're going to carry some ownership because of the Seattle total, but it doesn't matter to me. Perfectly correlated on the power play. Stick them with Vince Dunn because Arizona's penalty kill has been just god awful this year. So yeah, Seattle 1 for me. I do like Chikrin on the blue line for Arizona. I'm gonna keep playing him. Like the offense has to come at some point. That's about it for me. Yeah, does it? Does it really? Yeah, okay, maybe I shouldn't have said that. All right, we got one last game to get to. New Jersey Devils, 2.6 implied goal total going into San Jose. The Sharks have a 3.0 implied goal total. We don't know. Sharks are going to have some new lines because they sent William Eklund back to Sweden. So Eklund's out, Timo Meyer's out, and they're missing one other winger. So they're Vander Kane, obviously, suspension. So that's 3 left wingers out of the lineup. I think Rudolph Balcers is going to at least get top 6, if not top line minutes tonight. So I like him as a one-off. New Jersey Devils, their entire second line, Zacha, Mercer, and Alexander Holtz playing together at 5-on-5 and on the power play last night for the Devils. 2.6 implied total. They played last night. People might not be up to date on that line. Could be a decent sneaky spot for that trio.
Yeah, the Sharks are a mess. So back-to-back on the road, big slate. Normally not a spot that I'd want to go after, but yeah, I like the top 6 for the Devils tonight, especially that second line with Holtz because he's still min-priced, getting top power play minutes. People may not know who he is yet, so that second line is going to be in play for me. On the Shark side, I have to see their lines. I don't mind a hurdle one-off, but full stacking is probably out of the question for me.
Yeah, we just don't know what San Jose's lines are going to look like. So for now, I'll agree with you. Hurdle one-off is just fine. All right, we got to get out of here. Josh, I'm going to ask you for your favorite goalie and your hat trick pick for this slate. My favorite goalie, I don't think it'll be any surprise. I imagine it's going to be the same one as you, Igor Shesterkin. And I am going very safe with my hat trick pick here today, Nathan MacKinnon.
Igor for me as well. And I'm going to pluck one of my sons, and I'm going to say Joonas Donskoi.
There we go. He got a Joonas Donskoi hat trick last year. Maybe he'll get another Joonas Donskoi hat trick here tonight. I'm going to take Nathan MacKinnon for my hat trick pick, but we're going to get out of here. Make sure if you want to get a little bit of NBA strategy, we got that coming up right after us. But for producer Tyler, for Josh, we'll be back on Tuesday. This is Michael Clifford saying good luck tonight, everybody.